I came in illegally. I broke the law. It wasn't my choice, but at the same time, I'm here. Most of the time, the mother is the one that gets left behind with the kids. And this time it was the other way around. And my dad stepped up and took care of us. He worked 3 jobs to bring his 4 kids over.
I was born in Mexico, and then a year later, my uncle, which is her brother, actually went to Mexico, and they picked me up in Laredo, and I came in a car. They just put me to sleep, and they just said I was their baby, and I just crossed the border like that. And my mom came separately. And then from there, my mom was already there, and so was my dad, so they just kind of took me back to my parents.
You're here legally. People from India come, people from all around the world come, and they legally get their papers. Do the same thing.
I guess when my mom would leave and we wouldn't have anywhere to sleep or eat, we would just go and ask people for food or money and stuff like that to buy stuff to eat. So we would go and knock on people's doors, try to get food, or try to get money. And sometimes people just not give us anything. So the only other way would be for us to go through trash cans and stuff like that and found stuff to eat. So instead of my brother drinking milk, we would give him sugar and water because he would think that was sweet. So he would drink that and he would think he was full. It was not what a 5-year-old should have gone through, especially since my dad was here working and sending the money for us to supposedly or wanting us to have a better life when the money was not being used properly. But every time that he would call, she wouldn't let us talk to my dad because I think she was afraid that we might tell on her.
My dad had started working. At first, he was doing construction before I came here. And then my uncle, the one that actually wanted to go pick me up, got him a job as a welder. And then my mom started working at an office, cleaning offices.
That's not, I'm Mexican American, I'll tell you that, but they are not my people. We're all just, I'm Mexican American, they're just Mexican. They're not my people.
The first time my dad, of course my dad went with us. He took us to go get our stuff. We would pay $100 for a social security card and a residency card. So it was $50 each. It's just stuff that everybody who's in that situation has to go through. So
I found out that he had been undocumented while we were dating. We were driving and I just asked him, "Oh, how did you come here?"
It's tough. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine personally going through that. So I respect him a lot because he's been through a lot to where he's at right now.
Then I started going to school here. When I started applying for college, I was working 2 jobs. I was working at AutoZone part-time, and then I was working at a law firm full-time so I could pay for school.
When I was 16 is when they have changed the rule that you had to be a resident or a citizen to obtain a driver's license. So that's when it was oh, you can't drive because of your situation. So that's the first time I actually one-on-one impacted me. So then I came to UNT. I started applying, and then at first it was funny because they're okay, financial aid, financial aid. So at first I applied through FAFSA. I wasn't receiving anything, and then a week or 2 weeks later I realized that I couldn't apply through FAFSA. I had to apply through TASFA.
The people at AutoZone, they didn't know. They kind of suspected, and they would ask me every now and then, but they wouldn't really make a big deal out of it. And at the law firm, they didn't ask any questions. The first time that they asked me was just when I got hired, and I just told them that I lost it, and they just took my school ID and then my fake social security, and then that's it. I was about to get promoted and get my benefits and stuff like that, and so they asked me for my paperwork again because it was a different paperwork. And so that's when I actually had to tell the boss that I wasn't able to provide the documents. He just told me when I got my papers, or if I got them, to go ahead and go back, and he would hire me back if they had a position, and if they didn't, then they would make up one for me.
TASFA is basically a financial aid that Texas provides for people that are like under my situation. The only thing I had to pay out of pocket really was for my books and then my housing, but everything else, my tuition was paid for.
And they just take our resources away.
Not really, just because we're all in the same situation.
No, it's the truth. Like, I majored in economics, so I know the effects. I mean, they pay their taxes, yes. They still get away with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't. So yeah, they take natural resources away from us.
I got an internship through somebody that I knew from the work that I had been doing with LULAC. I flew to DC for the interview, and they offered me the position, which was a paid internship. All expenses paid. Maybe about a month before it was time for me to move, I received an email from Homeland Security and from the internship program stating that I was not eligible for the internship because I was not a U.S. citizen. The department where I was going to be interning was very classified.
He's so qualified for so many opportunities, and he can't take them because of his situation.
One of my sorority sisters works at this place here in Denton, and she just was like, hey, do you want to work here? And I'm like, well, can I? And she's like, well, we'll figure out a way. So I went and I interviewed, and they called me yesterday, and they're like, well, you know, you have the job. We just have to have a background check. That's the only other thing that's kind of like, oh, okay. As of right now, I have a job, but the background check can kind of like break it. And then I have orientation next week. So we'll see. I don't know.
I mean, half of the jobs they get, I wouldn't want to work there. So I don't, honestly, take them. Take all the jobs at McDonald's, construction, because I don't want them. That's another side. Like, they want to go to school and they want to compete with the same jobs as me, but you can't because you don't have papers.
I've been a good citizen. That's why I think it's unfair, because the person's is doing right and they're still being punished for doing right.
You get your 4-year degree, okay, cool. Don't get something on top of that. I don't see why they should, be legal, and then all of a sudden they're legal just because they got a degree. And other people that get degrees, like myself, we just get a degree and that's it.
In Juan's situation and many other kids' situation, they don't have a choice sometimes. Their parents bring them over.
And then they tell me, oh, but they didn't choose to come here. Yes, but they're choosing to be here. Like I said, Mexico's a border away. Like, you don't like it, leave. Things are worse there, but you complain about stuff like, oh, I'm getting paid minimum wage. Minimum wage is more than what the average person makes in Mexico, so I wouldn't be complaining.
For those who would say that the law is wrong and it should be changed, it shouldn't be changed, because then we wouldn't have any structure in the country. To me, your mother is the one that raised you. So that's why when I say my mom, and then people meet her.
And then this black lady comes out, I'm like...
And they're like, how is she your mom? And then, I kind of have to explain the situation.
He's the one that pretty much explained the whole situation, His mom hasn't been in his life for a while, and... his dad's dating her.
But it's still funny how people react. She raised me since I was, maybe in middle school or so. After my parents had been together for, I think, almost 5 years, they decided to get married. And then maybe 2 or 3 years after my dad and my mom married, my dad decides to finally apply for his residency. And then after that, he got his permanent residency card.
I've met undocumented students from South America, and I've met undocumented students from India, and all over, they're not just Hispanic. They're from all over the world, and so you really never know what an undocumented student, you could be talking to somebody and you don't know.
People think that since you're undocumented, you're going to be not going to college. First of all, you're not going to be pursuing your education. You have an accent, or you don't know how to speak English well. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. I've been here since I was 1. So basically, I've been here all my life. So I feel like I am from this country.
We're not all the same, so you can't categorize us all in the same category. We're all here for different reasons. The majority of the reason that everybody came here was for a better life.
My mom's always says, as long as you're healthy, you have your family, you have a place to live, you'll be fine. You know, like there's ways to go about it. 'Cause, I mean, there's a lot of people that live that way, and they're making it.
There is no way to get legalized unless you marry somebody who is a citizen, or in my case, are adopted, by somebody who is a citizen.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So that's why I'm just like, I'll be fine somehow. Eventually, it'll come.